Hey everyone, it's Cassie with LDRS Creative, and today we're going to talk about partial die cutting. This is a technique that is very useful when you have a stamp that is larger than the shape die that you want to use to cut it out. So today we're going to be working with this Storytime stamp and woodland foliage frames for our die. We're going to use this larger oval. Now this larger oval is a very large die, but if you look at the stamp, it doesn't quite fit. The edges of the stamp go past the edge of the die. So I'm going to show you how to fix that so that you get your entire stamped image and you get your die cut and it all works out perfectly. Let's get started. To start out, we're going to stamp our image. So I'm getting my stamp positioner ready. I'm just going to place my paper down in that bottom left-hand corner. And I'm going to put my stamp in the middle of my paper so that I have plenty of room for the die cut to go around it. I'm going to use some Raven Hybrid ink from LDRS Creative to ink up my stamp. Then I'll go ahead and stamp that down. The advantage to using a stamp positioner is if you miss a spot, you can go ahead and push that stamp back down and try again. I'm going to add a little bit more ink. There's a spot just kind of in that middle that didn't get enough ink on it, so I'm going to just push that down again and stamp it. Then we can clean off our stamp and put it away. Now we can go ahead and color our image. The LDRS Creative Hybrid ink is good for alcohol markers, watercolors, colored pencils, and all sorts of mediums, so you can go ahead and choose whichever medium is your favorite and go for it. Once our image is colored, we're ready to die cut. When we lay our oval on top of our stamped image, you'll see that part of the image goes past the actual die. So you can see down in that bottom corner, that snail is beyond the borders of the die. So I'm just going to mark where my die is on the paper, and I have my center line marked on my die. I just did that with a permanent marker, and so I'm marking that on my paper so I can reline this up. And then I'm marking where the snail goes past the die. I'm making little tiny marks on the inside of the die that will tell me how far I need to cut out so that the snail can go over top of the edge of the die. So next we'll be doing some fussy cutting to get that snail cut out. Now in order to get the die in place, we need to cut some slits. So I'm just taking my scissors and cutting from the edge of the paper and going up to these marks that we just made on our paper. And this will allow us to slip the die in underneath the snail. So we'll just go ahead and lift up that little tab that we've made, and the die can slide in right underneath, and then we'll line up the die where we want it on our card. Just getting my die lined up how I had it earlier. And we'll run it through our die cut machine like this, with the snail going over top of the edge of the die and the rest of the die sitting on the paper like normal. And I'm just going to put some little sticky notes over the edge of the die just to hold it in place while it's going through the machine. Once you run it through your machine, you should be able to pop that whole piece out, and you should have your shape die cut with a funny tab sticking past the edge. I'm just going to erase the pencil lines that I had on there. Then you can go ahead and fussy cut the snail tail out. At this point, it's ready to be added to your project, but I decided that I want to take it one step further, so I'm actually going to add a border using the die. To do this, I'm going to carefully put that die cut piece back inside the die and adhere that with a little bit of tape at the bottom there. And then I'm just going to take my pen and trace around the inside edge. And that creates a fun little border. To attach it to my card, I'm going to go ahead and put some foam tape on the back of this panel. I'm then going to adhere that to the front of a top folding A2 card that is covered with some patterned paper from the Daisy Delights paper pack. There's links in for all these products in the description below, so you can go ahead and find those there. I'm then also going to add a few rhinestones as embellishments, and the card will be good to go. This is a great technique to stretch your dies and to avoid doing a lot of fussy cutting. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week.